Today's junk journal with me is going to be all about collage. So the past few times I've been working in this junk journal for the No Sew November prompts, I've been doing some mixed media techniques, and so we're going to go back to my favourite thing to do of collage for the next two prompts in the challenge. So we have cut and paste, which is obviously a very collage centered prompt, and then we also have pattern clash. So I thought it would be fun to combine those two and use cut and paste as the sort of technique, so the collage that we're going to be doing, and then pattern clash as sort of something to guide me in terms of the things I will be picking to collage with, if that makes sense. Pulled out a few of my gardening books, which I've had these for a while, so I'm kind of wanting to use up a few of these because they've been on my shelf for ages. So this one has a mix of illustrations and a few images as well. It's nice also sometimes just to use this for text elements, things like that. But these pages, I don't know if it's going to show up, are quite shiny. They're not like a high gloss magazine, but they still are quite reflective. And obviously you could put some matte medium to dull that down, which I may well do if I choose anything from this book. But I also picked out a couple of others, and they're too big to fit in frame, but this one here is massive, if you can see, and this one just has a bunch of different images. And so normally I don't gravitate towards this one because I like to use things with illustrations in them, but this has just mostly images. But as you can see, this is really matte, so it's quite nice to use in collages. And so what I was thinking I could do just as an initial exercise is just pick out some of these images here that are a little bit more abstract. So what I'm thinking is to sort of use this as a pattern almost. So I'm going to try and stick to the colour scheme still that I've got going on in the journal, but something like this could work as a pattern, especially if you were to turn it upside down or something like that. So I'm just going to pick out a few of these. Okay, so I've picked out quite a few here. You can see I've definitely lent towards the pinks, but I've just tried to get a variety of different ones. And this one here is really giving me Even in Arcadia vibes, which I don't know how much of a niche reference that's going to be on a journaling channel like this. But yeah, so these are the ones I've picked out. Like I said, sort of a variety of different ones that work in different directions as well. And so what I'm going to do is probably pick out some that are going to be my main pieces, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out some sections and either layer them underneath each other or leave some space for some stamping is the thing I have in my head. So you'll know by this point when I've posted the video if the idea is actually going to work. So I think this might work quite nicely on this sort of page here with the tip in. So I'm thinking maybe this one, or that's a bit bold, maybe this one here. And let's try cutting the image to size first. And so none of these patterns really clash in the sense of like, I don't know, spots and stripes or like checkered and something else. I didn't want there to be patterns competing against each other, but I just wanted to use the prompt as a way to force me to pick images that I wouldn't normally pick. So rather than picking, fully formed, like just a flower or something fussy cut, it was kind of, working with something that's a little bit different like this, where I guess you can tell it's a flower, but like really can you? If you just like look on first glance, it kind of looks a bit more abstract. And so let's maybe trim this so that it's the right size for this little tip in here, because I want to make sure that I've still got some of this collage there that I was doing. So I think we need to be ever so slightly smaller. So that maybe it can go there or that way around. I'm half tempted to sort of cut around this section here because it's feeling a little bit too dark. So maybe, I feel like this is just because I'm so used to fussy cutting stuff rather than having like that cut and paste in terms of literally just cut it out as a square or something and then paste it in. I'm always looking at how I can fussy cut things, so I'm just going to quickly do that just to this section here, and I think that could add a little bit of interest as well. So a little bit less uniformity. So rather than fussy cutting around the whole thing, I'm just going to cut around this section here. Tidy up some of those little small bits there. It's a little bit trickier because I haven't got my embroidery scissors on me. I'm only using normal scissors. Normally I use scissors that are a little bit smaller, but I think that still worked pretty well. So yeah, that's a little bit better. Or maybe this way around. I don't know if I like that now, actually. I'm wondering if a little label might be able to save this. Okay, I think something like that might save this a little bit. So let's just add this. I've sort of layered up with some labels there. So I'm just going to add these to the page. Okay, so I can kind of see that that's working there, where it's not, do you know what I mean? It's not like the image necessarily that is the focal point, but I'm using the pattern from it. And I mean, it's definitely clashing, so maybe, you know, that's the element of the prompt that I'm clearly bringing into this, but I think this might work well with these green little labels. I'm wondering maybe here, and then I think that helps just to make something of this little page, so you know there's space for a little quote perhaps on this section. Seeing as we're talking about pattern clashing, that just reminded me actually that I have these stamps here. Now don't ask me where I got these from because I have no idea. I've had these for years and I've not really used many of them, as you can see, but I'm just thinking that maybe some of the squiggles, or I don't know, even the little stars could be quite nice for this. So I'm just going to grab the star here, and that way then we're still bringing in a little bit of a different pattern. And obviously this doesn't fit the acrylic block that I've got going on here, but that doesn't matter. So let me just grab my ink, and I'm hoping this isn't going to be too like stark on this. I just want a little bit of some other pattern going on. And then I think this might be the first little page that is fully finished from this journal. So obviously we have others to work on, but I think now that I'm starting to add some of the imagery, it's really bringing things together. So let's see, where shall we add this section? I need something underneath here so I don't get stars where I don't want them. Let me just pop that underneath there. So I'm thinking like up here. Okay, that kind of works. And then maybe a couple down here just as a little bit of something to maybe go on to this bit here, I'm thinking. Add those there. Oh, that didn't quite work how I wanted it to, but never mind. Faded it out a little bit there, so I've kind of played it off as if that's what I meant to do on the page. So yeah, you can barely see it on this top bit here, but it kind of leads your eye sort of down here, I think, and that works pretty well. I'm just going to put a bit of washi tape here because I have a piece that's starting to break off, so I obviously don't want that to get any worse. I'm just going to grab something neutral here just to add this as a little bit of a fix in that corner there, where there's a bit of a weakness on, I think just obviously where it's like the paper's folding and it's, you know, not super thick paper there. So let me just add a little bit of reinforcement. So there is my first little section there that I have done the sort of cut and paste with a bit of a different pattern going on. So let's find somewhere else to do this. I quite like that, where it's not like you can't immediately see what it is more of the pattern that's going on there. So I've just punched a little square out of this piece here because I wanted to add it to this page, but I didn't want to cover over everything that I've got going on here. So I figured if I hole punched it that way, I could still have the image but also see through some of the stuff that's already going on there. And I mean, I might extend that. And I've just lifted this section here because I didn't want to cover that as I was adding this part to the page. So I'm just going to lift that a little bit more just so I can pop this where I want it to be. I think maybe there. I've added some stars there, and I think I'm tempted to potentially add one of the other patterns. Maybe the little spirally squiggle pattern here could be quite interesting, this one. That way then I'm at least bringing in a second pattern, but you can see how this is sort of shaping up here, and I really like the way that with the cutout you can still see what's behind, and I've just got that layered effect between the actual page itself, if you will, and the background. So this is what I'm hoping will be the result with the other pages as well, is that we start to see them become pages of their own, but we'll see the background layers that I was adding throughout. So let's maybe go just up the top here, slightly off the edge. Okay, that's not what I was expecting it to look like, but never mind. It kind of looks like the sewing detail. Can you tell I'm trying not to panic? Not what I thought it was going to be with the squiggle. Let's see. I don't know, maybe let's add one over here as well because I need to clean that off. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a squiggle detail. I was cutting up this piece because I was looking at the ones I had left, and I pulled out quite a lot of pinks here, and I don't really want to cover all the pages in pink necessarily, but I might put these aside for something else. I do think that this could be interesting as a longer piece, maybe across 2 pages. I'm just not sure yet which ones, because that would take up quite a lot of the page. I mean, maybe it would be good for one of these ones. Where did it go? Do you know where I've cut it and made it like an open page? Perhaps I could do this within another one of the envelopes, just as a way to get some more space and still be able to use a longer image like that. But I don't think it fits on the pages that I've got here. I've kind of used smaller images for that. So let's see. But I did like, where did it go? Yeah, I did like this image here. So I didn't use all of the images as you can see here, but I'll definitely save them for future pages. But I've ended up finishing 3 pages for this journal, so adding all of the embellishments here so you can kind of see how the background is starting to come together, I think, with everything else going on. So this is the first one, and the image is a little bit busy, but I think because it's a tip-in like this, it doesn't feel as busy, and I think the patterns, they definitely clash, but I did try and keep the colour scheme a little bit more neutral, and I even included just a little cut off there of one of the other pages that I was working on. So there's the first one, and then for the second one I worked on the tip in here. So this does need some text, but I really like the way that that doesn't immediately look like the image, especially with the cutout detail on the side there. And then finally I have this piece here, which I did a sort of cutout element, and then I ended up adding some text on the side there and just using the image more as the focal point. And I really like the way that the image contrasts there with everything else going on for the page. Those are my entries for cut and paste and for pattern clash. So as always, let me know what you have decided to do for this prompt, and I will see you in the next one.